The offensive sweeps of the Royal Canadian Navy now took them into distant waters. The Bay of Biscay, the Norway coast, the Murmansk Run. In the forefront of this offensive were the Tribal-class destroyers. The Tribals were designed not for convoy escort, but to sweep the enemy from the seas once the Atlantic battle had been won.
Just as we turned, that's the Athabaskan. We picked up a spread of torpedoes that they sent out after us. And one of them, of course, it was sunk. I was blown from my secondary signal position, and I was blown off of there and onto the iron deck. And then I heard stand by to abandon ship. When I heard the abandoned ship, I just over the side into the water, and I had flash gear on, and I knew that the flash gear had come down. I didn't know what had happened because I knew my eyes were open, but I couldn't see a thing. And I thought, God, I hope I haven't been blinded.
William Bill Connolly, born September 28, 1920, shares his experiences in the Royal Canadian Navy, where he joined at the age of 22 in 1942, and he served on the HMCS Athabaskan. We thank Andy Barber, a Korean War veteran, for filming his incredible stories in 2007 and sharing this footage with Zach Dunn to post and save Bill's stories forever. Now, let's hear from Bill himself, who shares his extraordinary story.
Well, we're going to do some recording of Mr. Bill Connolly, who was a World War II naval veteran, who was on the Athabaskan in 1944, April 29th to be exact, when it was torpedoed. And he subsequently became a prisoner of war. And we'll hear his story as we start now. Bill, where did you actually join and start up in Hamilton?
At the Star.
At HMCS Star?
Yeah, HMCS Star.
Right. What was the ships that you were on?
The ships that I was on?
Yeah.
The King Haakon the 7th, Norwegian ship, and the Athabaskan.
Right. Understand you had some incidents aboard the King Haakon. Can you tell us about it?
It was different, a couple of different instances that happened with me. Of course, I was a new kid on the block. I'd never been to sea before. I reported a submarine surfacing. It was a whale. It was a good-sized whale, so that's about it, except the time that we lost a man overboard. I spotted him with, we put our lights on because we lost a convoy. And I spotted him in the water, and I got down to the stern of the ship and got out on the bumpers, the fenders, and tied a rope around, a heaving line around my waist. And as we backed into him, I put my hand down, grabbed him, and I hung on to him, and I hollered up to the fellas to come down and give me a hand. Of course, they were all Norwegians, and they didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Norwegian. I finally got through to them what they should do, and they got the fellow in, brought him in. He was unconscious. And other than that, it was pretty quiet. Oh, yes. The captain sent word down that he wanted to see me in the wardroom. So I went back up, and I couldn't figure out why the hell he wanted to see me, but he says to me, I have to put you on report because you left your station off the bridge. And I says, yeah, but if I hadn't have done that, I don't think it would have got him on board, because we were backing up pretty fast, and I just grabbed him. Luckily, I grabbed him, hung on to him. He says, you don't have to worry about it. Nobody will know about it but you and I. So that's great. And then he offered me a drink of gin, and I took a drink of gin, and I hate gin.
What was your rank?
I was signalman trained operator.
Signalman trained operator, right. Now, when you went aboard, after you left the King Halcombe, you went aboard HMCS Athabaskan, I understand. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, the Athabaskan was where I picked up when I did go for my TO. That's when I had to go to an English base, and was down there for about 2 or 3 weeks, and that's when I picked up my TO.
What area did you serve in the Atlantic?
North Atlantic and Bay of Biscay, and we went down as far as Gibraltar and the Azores. We picked up at Gibraltar, we picked up Churchill, the KG-5, the King George V, and brought him back up to England. But most of our time was spent in the Bay of Biscay. No, that was in the Bay of Biscay.
Okay, baby, can you tell me about it?
Yeah, well, it was a glider bomb, radio controlled, and it was dropped from the aircraft, and they flew out of range where we couldn't reach them with our guns. And if you altered course, it altered course with you. And that's why we nicknamed him the Chase Me Charlie. And then after that, when it went through us and blew up, it killed 4 and put 20 of them that were sent back to hospital.
Where were you when that glider bomb hit?
Where was my station?
Yeah, where were you? Yeah.
I was on the flag deck.
We'd like you to tell us a little bit about the action in the Bay of Biscay in September 29, 1944. Could you give us a hint as to what was going on there?
Well, we were looking for subs. We were looking for submarines. So to see they'd go down and come back up through the Bay of Biscay to get into Germany. When we got one, and we picked up 6 of them, the crew, and they got in. We picked them up, and we told them we were taking them back to. When they found out we were Canadian, they were happy. They thought they were going back to Canada, but we dropped them at Plymouth. When we were hit by a torpedo, well, we were with the Haida, and we were chasing these. When we started to follow them, chase them, they altered course and run away from us. Just as we turned, that's the Athabaskan, we picked up a spread of torpedoes that they sent out after us. And one of them, of course, it was sunk. I was blown from my secondary signal position, and I was blown off of there and onto the iron deck, and then I heard stand by to abandon ship. When I heard the abandoned ship, I just over the side into the water, and I had flash gear on, and I knew that the flash gear had come down. I didn't know what had happened because I knew my eyes were open, but I couldn't see a thing. And I thought, God, I hope I haven't been blinded. Felt my eyes and lifted this thing up. Just your eyes were out as you could see through this flash here. So I brought that thing up over my eyes and lifted it. The thing come right up so I could see that I could see.
Tell us what happened once you wound up in the water.
Well, I come up and I seen a ship sitting right beside me. So in my training, I learned that the best way is to get away as far as you can from the ship, because you could be sucked right down with her. So that's what I did. I got out of her way, and I got out on a scramble net, a piece of grass scramble net that was cut loose. And when I wrapped onto this, I stood out there and I seen her start to go down, and she sunk right down stern first. And you could hear everything moving, the piano and all the dishes and everything else crashing.
Right. And how long were you in the water?
4.5 hours.
Was the Haida anywhere around?
Oh, the Haida come back to pick us up. And I swam for her, but I found out that I was swimming against the current, and I couldn't get to her at all. I closed into about maybe 10 feet, and then she pulled out. She waited there as long as she could. She shouldn't have stopped, but she did, which I was glad to see her stop, because she picked up about 40-some of our boys, but she left 85 of us in the water.
So how did you wind up in a prison of war camp?
Well, after we were in the water a little longer, the Germans sent out one of the destroyers that we'd been chasing, plus a patrol craft, and the patrol craft picked me up with the other fellows that I got in the Carly float with.
Mm-hmm. Did you encounter any injuries during that time?
Oh, yeah. So my hands were burned from the hot oil coming down, and I had a piece of shrapnel in my leg, but that's with it.
And how did the Germans treat you?
Well, the treatment, I think, was pretty good. They used a salve, a gray salve on my hands, and that worked good. They told me to work it, keep on working your hands, keep them work all the time so they wouldn't stiffen up on you.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what happened on the first day you were in the prisoner of war camp?
The first day I was a prisoner of war? Oh no, this was before we went up to the prison camp.
Okay, before we went to the prison camp, what happened there?
Well, they put us in front of a firing squad, and a few of us had accidents, but they all in German. They up rifles, aim, and then the German officer told them in very good English that this is what will happen to you if you try to escape. Oh, it was a lesson learned very, very well.
Okay, Bill, one thing I meant to ask you before, I understand you spent some time in solitary confinement. Could you explain that to us?
Yes, when we got up into France, into Germany, we traveled up there in train cars, and the trains are built for, the compartments are built for about 6 people, 3 on each side. And there was about 12 of us in each compartment. We were stretched out on the floor and on the seats and up in the baggage racks and everything else. And on the way up to get water, we stopped at tanks, the big tanks, and stripped our clothes off and went and stood under the tanks and pulled the cords and put the cold water on us, and it bruised us up a bit.
How were you fed in solitary confinement?
Well, it was pretty hectic. It was, mind you, it was regular. You got a slice of bread about maybe an inch, half an inch thick, and turnip soup, which was good.
How did they get into you?
Oh, through a slit in the door.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a slit in the door.
Can you tell us what happened when they asked you about a certain weapon that the Navy had called a hedgehog?
The hedgehog, yeah. They asked me what a hedgehog was, and I told it, felt exactly what I thought it was. It was a small animal, like a porcupine, that lived in the hedges of England. And he slammed the door shut. I never heard it from him again. I thought, well, he doesn't want to hear about it. What the hell? He just closed me off.
Now, the other thing I was going to ask you is that you were brought up before the officer of the camp and asked what your rank was.
Yeah.
And you referred to it as being an ordinary seaman.
That's right.
Could you explain a bit more about that?
Yeah. I told the fellows that I heard them talking, the Germans talking about going to ask the people what they were, what their ranks were. So when they came to me, they asked me what my rank was, and I told them. my name and number, and my rank was a seaman. And he asked me the second time, and I told him the same thing. And he says, closed his book, put his pencil down on the desk, and he says, now, let me tell you what I know about you. So he told me where my wife lived with my mother and father at 18 Lock Street North in Hamilton, Ontario. And he told me that I was a signalman, took my training in St. Hyacinth. And then he asked me, did I want to know anything else? And I said, well, no, there's nothing you can tell me.
And the significance of that was the fact, what? Being a signalman.
Well, they wanted to know all the codes, but we didn't tell them any codes.
After completing his time in solitary confinement, Bill was then shipped off to Morlag und Milag Nord, a German prisoner of war camp in the north part of Germany, mainly comprised of men of the British and Canadian Merchant and Royal Navy, where he would stay for over 14 months. Surviving a winter in northern Germany as a POW was difficult. As the end of the war was coming, and the Allies now landing in Europe, the German army was crumbling around them, with morale, men, and most importantly food being scarce. Bill's day-to-day life was tough, as he explains exactly what food they had access to.
Food? I have a chicken every Sunday and girls every Saturday. No, it was mostly turnips. You had turnips every day. There was a big turnip patch beside the camp, and you had turnips every day. And we would boil them and cook them. Pretty dull routine, but we got Red Cross parcels every week. There was an English Red Cross parcel, American Red Cross parcel, and Canadian.
Now, you were torpedoed and you were captured in April of 1944. That meant you must have spent a winter in the prison of war camp. Mm-hmm. How was it there during the winter time?
Very cold, bitter cold.
Did you have any heat, any stoves? Or?
Yeah, we had a small stove, but the only wood we could burn was just the wood that we went out on marches to pick up the wood. But when you made a pile of wood to carry on your shoulders, but by the time we got back into the camp, you'd come in, your parcel was less than half. You were dropping it off all the way in. You were getting weaker every day, and you could see it in the other fellows, but you didn't see it in yourself.
Now, did anybody try to escape? Was there any escape efforts made?
Yes, there was one, none of our fellows, but it was the officer. One of the officers tried to escape. As a matter of fact, they made a picture of it. I seen the picture when I come back from overseas, and it was called Marlag and Milag O. The O was for the officers. And this fella, they made a paper mache dummy of the head, and they put the head on top of his top coat and a cap on his head. And when they marched him in between two men carried him, and they walked up. The Germans weren't looking at his feet; they were counting heads as they come up. And they pushed him into the front of the line, and he went in and over the barricade for the furnace in the washroom. Well, we were counted 3 times a day, upheld 3 times a day, and that dummy was brought out and counted for about 5 of the days. And then they decided that they were going to leave him inside.
So you spent 14 months in there, including a winter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where were you when the Allies, when VE Day basically was declared?
We were in between the Scots Armour Division and the Germans. We were in slit trenches, and they were firing over the trenches at each other.
So you were in the middle?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think that you would have survived the 14 months in the prison work camp only to meet your end by friendly fire?
Yeah, we were afraid of that. More than one of us were afraid of it. But it was pretty good.
Now, obviously, you were liberated from the prison camp. Did the prison camp have a name?
Yeah, it was Marlag and Melag.
Marlag, Melag.
Nord, yeah. Well, we were made to stay in the camp till they decided to send us to a place called Diepholz in Germany. And they transported us there from there to Brussels. Yeah, Brussels. And we got in Lancaster bombers, and they flew us to England. We flew right over top of Mulberry, where the dock was all built and everything else. Got good view of that.
Mm-hmm. So once you landed in England, how did you get back to Canada?
Well, we come in the Aquitania. We picked it up in Gourock.
And when you got back into Canada, where were you debarking from?
New York.
What happened when you got home?
Well, I met my wife
Uh-huh.
for the first time in 4.5 years. And we met and we kissed, and she split my lip. And I don't think I split her lip, no.
How's war changing? Frank Curry said war is a terrible thing, what it had done to us.
Well, we grew up very fast. Very fast.
Well, Bill, I want to thank you very much for spending some time with us and telling us your story. Is there anything else you might want to add?
Not that I know of. Can't think of anything like that.
Well, having said that, I want to thank you very much again and wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you very much.
Bye now.
Bye now.
Hi everybody, my name is Zach Dunn from Global Veteran Stories. I just wanted to introduce myself and my project. Global Veteran Stories is a video documentary series I started back in 2021, dedicated to preserving the stories of World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam War veterans. Inspired by the story of my own granddad, who served in the Second World War in the British Airborne as a paratrooper in Northern Africa, Germany, and France. Now I want to tell you how you can help out with my mission. As of August 2024, I've interviewed over 50 veterans from 8 different countries, and my trips to interview these veterans are funded from people just like you. You can donate through my mission through Patreon, where you can set up a monthly donation subscription, or through my website or PayPal, where you can choose any dollar amount that you like. Right now, I'm a one-man show, and finding these veterans is becoming more and more difficult. So please, if you know a World War II, Korean War, or Vietnam War veteran, whether a family member, a friend, neighbor, or part of your community, please visit my website and fill out a contact form, and I would love to help preserve their stories. Every day, we lose more and more veterans. This history needs to be saved and preserved for future generations. Thank you so much for your support. Now, let's get into our veteran story.